Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Mike Tomlin shares 8 words on J.J. Watt potentially signing with Steelers. Would J.J. Watt, right, ever come out of retirement to join brother T.J. Watt, left, on the Pittsburgh Steelers? Pittsburgh Steelers fans have often salivated at the idea of J.J. Watt coming out of retirement to join his younger brother T.J. Watt for a playoff run, and why not? If the Watt brothers ever took the field for the same defense, that unit would be deploying a combined 4 AP Defensive Player of the Year awards, as well as 9 first-team All-Pro honors and over 227 career sacks, including playoffs. Not to mention a long list of other stats and accolades. So, have the Steelers ever tried to convince the oldest of the 3 Watt brothers to attempt to come back and sign with the organization during one of his many team visits in Pittsburgh? Head coach Mike Tomlin was asked that question while speaking with the Pat McAfee Show on December 12, and his answer, while hilarious, pretty much closed the door on the J.J. Watt discussion once and for all. "We don't have enough cash for 2 Watts," Tomlin joked, drawing a laugh from McAfee and his crew. Realistically, if J.J. Watt ever did decide to return for one final run at a Super Bowl title, money probably wouldn't be the deciding factor, and linking up with his brother would be at or near the top of the list of potential destinations no matter what the Steelers could afford to pay him. Over-the-cap estimates a career earnings amount of approximately $129.706 million, and that doesn't include the cash that the retired superstar has made off the field in endorsements, commercials, and business ventures. It's more likely that, as J.J. Watt has hinted in the past, he's enjoying his retirement and no longer has enough of a desire to step back out onto the football field. Tomlin's response is more humorous though. Speaking of J.J. Watt and the Pat McAfee Show, the former game-wrecking defensive lineman joined the show on December 11, and he explained why he feels the Steelers team could potentially make a Super Bowl run in 2024-25. "I mean, they clearly looked good in Week 14, and they've proved they can do it in a few different ways," Watt told McAfee. Obviously, star wide receiver George Pickens being out for this game, and also it looks like, possibly a little longer, they proved that they can find a way to win without him. Watt went on to call Pickens a stud and a phenomenal receiver before reiterating that Pittsburgh is finding ways to win even without some of their best players. "We know their defense is good, we're clearly seeing Russell Wilson play at a level that is capable of making it very deep into the playoffs and potentially Super Bowl," he continued. "So, we'll see." Watt did note that the grueling upcoming schedule will be very difficult to maneuver, but he seemed to like the Steelers' chances long-term, as do most fans. Is this the year Pittsburgh gets back to the big game? As Watt alluded, the Steelers are about to embark on a 3-game stretch that will occur over an 11-day span. It begins in Philadelphia against the 11-2 Eagles on December 15, before heading to Baltimore to play the division rival Ravens 6 days later. Finally, Pittsburgh will finish up with a Christmas Day outing versus the 2-time defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. That final game will take place just 4 days after the Ravens outing, although the Chiefs will be playing on the exact same amount of rest. Fortunately, the Steelers have just about locked up a playoff spot at 95.4% according to Pro Football Network's playoff predictor tool, but these games will still be incredibly important for seeding. For now, they'll have to take things one day at a time. Steelers must call on 300-pound matchup nightmare with George Pickens injured. After learning that George Pickens is dealing with a grade 2 hamstring strain, fans and the media alike are quick to predict what the Steelers could look like without Pickens in the lineup for Week 15. "We got a taste of this last week against the Browns. Pittsburgh got the win over Cleveland in Week 14, and thanks to capitalizing on takeaways, Mike Tomlin's team sealed a 27-14 victory. But if you were to ask which skill players showed up big in Pickens' absence, the answer isn't so cut and dry. Jaylen Warren was arguably the best offensive player in this contest, chipping in 49 rushing yards and 25 receiving yards on just 11 total touches. However, Pat Freiermuth led all Steelers pass catches in Week 14 with 3 catches for 48 yards and a touchdown. These two weapons must be utilized if and when Pickens misses time with a hamstring injury, but there's one matchup nightmare that must be put to good use. Right now, most of the media is looking at Mike Williams for answers and debating whether the veteran trade acquisition can fill the void left by George Pickens. Though Williams has been efficient on a small sample, just 5 targets in 5 games with the Steelers, he's not a go-to option in the passing game. Sadly, the Steelers don't have another complete wide receiver on their roster outside of Pickens, but they do have an oversized tight end who could make defenses pay. Darnell Washington towers over the competition and has proven to be effective as a run blocker, pass protector, and receiver in his second NFL season. What could make him even more lethal is the matchup Steelers could exploit on defense. Pittsburgh's tight end coach, Alfredo Roberts, slipped up when talking to the media in late October when he admitted that Washington is 6 feet 7 inches and 300+ pounds. It shows. Thanks to his unmatched size and impressive athletic traits, Washington has the ability to be a seam stretcher with a massive catch radius or a freight train with the ball in his hands in space. Washington has made impressive plays all over the field this season. Though he's not used often in the passing game, the 23-year-old tight end has 18 catches on 24 targets for 192 yards and a touchdown this season. Washington has a catch rate of 75% while averaging an impressive 8.0 yards per target in the passing game. In addition to possessing soft, natural hands to effortlessly pluck the ball out of the air, Washington punishes defenders after the catch. This is on display nearly every time he has touched the ball this season. What's most intriguing is the matchups the Steelers could exploit. It's comical trying to watch a 6 feet 0 inches linebacker try to bring down Washington on first contact or a 5 feet 10 inches defensive back attempting to avoid being posterized by the big tight end. Just like Washington's effortless backshoulder touchdown earlier in the season against a much smaller player, these matchups are here for the taking. Washington didn't catch a pass against the Browns last week and the big tight end received just 1 target. However, Washington's lack of involvement could have been part of the reason it was so hard to get the passing game off the ground in Week 14. The Steelers won't survive long without George Pickens in the lineup unless they find a player they can turn to for a spark. Skill players like Jaylen Warren, Pat Freiermuth, and Mike Williams could each see a boost in opportunities with Pickens sidelined, but the Steelers can't forget about their 300-pound matchup nightmare. Pittsburgh Steelers never tried to land just-released Patriots wide receiver. The Pittsburgh Steelers did not put in a waiver claim on recently released New England Patriots wide receiver KJ Osborne, sources told PennLive. Even if they had put in a claim for Osborne, the Washington Commanders, who landed Osborne, would have been in front of them on the waiver claim list. The only 2 teams that put in a claim for Osborne were the Commanders and the Houston Texans. Washington lost wide receiver Noah Brown for a significant injury that will keep him sidelined for potentially the rest of the season, so it makes sense they would make a move to land him. Osborne played in just 7 games, posting 7 receptions for 57 yards over those games, and after being inactive for the latter half of the season, the Patriots moved on so Osborne could latch on with a contender, which he did in Washington. In 2023, Osborne was one of the more underrated wide receivers in football. He had 50 catches for 655 yards and 7 touchdowns. Before this season, Osborne had 3 straight seasons with 500 or more receiving yards as a big-bodied player who would win over the middle of the field. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of KJ Osborne? Leave your opinion in the comments.